Hi everyone, welcome. Namaha, namaste. I'm Vasanthi, and today I was thinking we could talk to a topic that many people do not want to discuss. At least that was my experience when I've moved through it, and that is grief. Grief does not have to be death, although often when you hear the word grief, people equate it with death, but it does not have to mean equivalent to the end of life. Grief can also be a loss of many things. It can be the loss of health. It can be the loss of a relationship, the loss of a loved one, the loss of financial security, the loss of a job, can be loss of being able to conceive. There's so many ways that we can look at grief. And so I invite this idea of what does that mean when we move through grief, and how can we move through it in a healthy way rather than trying to suppress it or push it aside, thinking that it's something that we shouldn't be talking about, that is negative. And when really grief is a part of life, right? Grief is a part of life. And in fact, when we come to that understanding that grief is a part of life and we're comfortable to be able to speak to it and talk to it, we're better able to have a healthy relationship with grief. And I think that's so vital. And I wish I had known that earlier in my life, but all things come into being when we need to hear the lesson, right? So I wanted to offer some tools on how you can move through grief, through whatever grief or loss you're experiencing. What is your habitual pattern that you fall to? And how can you help yourself to be with the grief, but in a healthy way? And so thought I would first allow us to take a moment to settle in, to find a comfortable seated posture. I invite you to find a comfortable seat, whether it's on the floor, in a chair, and taking anything that you need, any props, any pillows you need, back support, anything that you need to help you find a comfortable seated posture that allows you to feel grounded and tethered, yet also feel uplifted and light. So take a moment to settle into that seat. And ground down into your seat. Feel the sit bones grounding down. Any areas that touch the support beneath you, whether it's the chair, the floor, the earth. And allow yourself to tether and ground down. And as you do, feel that rise upward so that the crown of the head is reaching upward towards sky. And the head is drawn back so you feel ample space to the neck, to the sides, to the back of the neck, and the throat feels open and expansive. Take a moment, let the shoulders roll up by the ears as you inhale, and then exhale, slide them down the back. And allow yourself to rest your hands on your knees and thighs, your option for palms up or down, or hands interlaced. And allow your eyes to softly draw down. So think of the upper eyelid being soft, drawing downward so that the eyes are openly narrow and you're gazing downward to a very precise spot. And if you're comfortable, you're welcome to close the eyes and let the upper eyelid softly rest to touch the lower eyelid. Upper eyelid softly rests to touch and rest on the lower eyelid, allowing this feeling of softness starting from the crown of the head, that soft wave going down into the forehead, into the upper eyelids, lower eyelids, feeling that soft wave continue down the nose and cheeks, to the upper lip, lower lip, and allowing the jaw to soften, the gums, the teeth, the tongue to soften. Allowing that softening to continue down through the chin, through the throat, to the back of the neck, sides of the neck. And then feel that wave of softness ripple down through the collarbone, the chest, to the low back, down into the abdomen. Feel that soft wave going from the shoulders down through the upper arms, forearms, until all the fingers are soft and relaxed. See that soft wave once again going from the upper body down into the lower body until it starts to come into that soft wave into the pelvis, down into the legs, the knees, the lower legs, and down into the feet. And allow your entire body to feel this softness, this lightness, this ease. I welcome you to think of a memory, a moment in life where you are in a state of joy, ecstatic joy. Let it be the first memory rather than churning through several. Let the first memory that comes up, that soon as that memory comes up, you're instantly in a state of joy. And maybe that joy brings along emotions of peace or excitement, gratitude, laughter. Allow yourself to turn all your senses inward to relive that memory, that moment of joy. Where are you? Look at your surroundings. Let that memory be a feast for your eyes. What do you see? Notice the details. Who's with you? What are you doing? What's taking place around you? Let your eyes see all the details, near and far. Let your ears hear everything taking place in that memory. What do you hear nearby? What's in the distance? Is there music? Are there sounds? Is there chatter? Take in the sounds as it's silence. Are there any fragrances or a sense of smell in this memory? If you were to take a breath in this memory, what scents come up? If you were to put a taste to this day, to this moment, what kinds of tastes come up? And then allow your whole body, the skin, to feel what that memory is like. Perhaps it's actual sensation of what that memory brings up, of that day, that moment, the temperature of your skin, any contact or touch that you have. And take a moment for the next few cycles of breath to simply observe and be with that memory again. And as you do, allow the corners of your lips to draw into a wide smile, to the tips of your ears, as you relive and experience this memory with ecstatic joy. And notice how that feels within you, within your whole being. Take a cleansing breath in. Open the mouth, let out a sigh. And let your eyes gently blink open. And gazing back up. And so I hope you were able for that brief moment to welcome this feeling of joy. That there are memories that we can bring up that instantly take us to that ecstatic feeling of joy. And in that state of joy, we can also bring up the feeling of grief. And wanted to share today this idea of joy and grief can coexist. Joy and grief can coexist. Grief and joy can coexist. That if we are experiencing joy during our day in a given moment, whether it's a brief moment or something longer with interacting with others, or a moment where you just find yourself doing something and you come up with a smile, that it's okay to be joyful while grief is still present, that you are not forgetting to grieve, that you are not forgetting what you are moving through. It's also okay that when you're in the moments of grief, to allow that to be present, to also recognize there's moments for joy. And so I talk about these two concepts, and especially this idea of grief, because so many people around us, our loved ones, our family members, our friends, people who we hold dearly, it's difficult for people to talk about grief. It's hard for them to also witness someone that they care and love go through grief, when grief is a normal process, a normal emotion that we move through, and we allow it to move through. So today, welcome this idea. Joy and grief can coexist. And take a moment, find that comfortable seat again. Let the eyes close. And as you inhale joy. Breathe joy in, feeling it fully. Exhale, release grief as you breathe out. Inhale, I breathe deeply into joy. Exhale, I release grief as I breathe out. Inhale, I breathe deeply into my joy, feeling joy fully. Exhale, I release grief as I breathe out. Observe that for a moment. Inhaling grief. Exhale joy. Inhale joy. Exhale grief. Inhale grief. Exhale joy. Inhale joy. Exhale grief. And allow your breath to speak to those two words in whatever order they need to be. And allowing them to be present with breath, to receiving, to giving, to letting go, to dissolving. That all of this is a healing process. And in that healing process, joy and grief, grief and joy can coexist. Take a cleansing breath in. Open mouth, exhale. Your eyes open. And taking a moment to just notice how that feels. If tears come out, allow them. Any emotions, any feelings that start to come out and up, allow them. If there's a moment where you end up going into a deep state of laughter and you question how can you laugh with grief, know that it's a natural reaction for your body when you are in a tremendous amount of stress, to find a way to help you produce the happy hormone to reduce that cortisol. Great way that we can do it so simply to lower that stress, to lower that level of cortisol, and to be present, not numb, but back in the body, back in this body with the breath, with the mind, being present to what's taking place and flowing through us, is the simple tool of breath. So may you find a moment to find ease with your breath and peace with your breath, and allow yourself to experience both joy and grief coexisting within you, and grief and joy coexisting within you and outside of you. Have a blissful rest of the day, and thank you for speaking to such an important topic that we all need to discuss and share more openly with. May you find healing.